I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. In today's status quo, many groups of people who are protesting frequently lead to a violent resistance. It all starts due to a certain conflict or problem resulting in people who are opposed as the minority group to pursue violent resistance due to their voices not being heard nor seen. Oppressed minority groups are people who experience discrimination, social exclusion, and political injustice who wants to demonstrate resistance and achieve social justice and equality. One of the most popular examples is the George Floyd case, an African American who died because of a white police officer killed him. This led to violent confrontations everywhere all around the world. We, as the opposition side of the House, are highly opposed to today's motion where the government suggests that minority groups should consider pursuing violence when seeking reform, and that's why we choose to reduce the violence in protests as opposed to the current status quo. Why so? I'll explain it in 2 layers. First, violence will lead to bigger violence. It is no debate that whenever there's a conflict and one of the sides decided to lead into violence, the other side will definitely lead in the same result. Due to the feeling of not wanting to lose and feeling unfair, this means that violence is never the answer. But yes, minority groups are doing everything in their case to be able to be seen and heard. But this doesn't mean that resulting in violence will make them heard. So what will actually happen if they result in violence? First, lots of people will get hurt, either from the minority group or not. It doesn't really matter because in the end, people get hurt by this. This will result in a lot of victims losing their lives and being injured badly only because of a protest. For example, in the Arab Spring protest, this protest mainly started from a simple dissatisfaction within the country. But it ended with a mass murder in Syria that led into hundreds and thousands of deaths. By this example, we can conclude that violence resulted to a massive amount of lives being taken away. It is inhuman to think that sacrifices need to be made just for a protest to make results when there are lots of other ways to protest peacefully. And second, there will definitely be people who feel sorry for the minority group because of the victims caused by their protests. Yes, this is most likely to happen, but is it human to say and think that we should consider going into violence to gain support and getting seen from other people? Like, what about the victims? Do they die happily? Do they regret doing what they did? People who decide to go into violence are just people who are incapable of speaking and have a lower skills in language, thus making them led into violence because the only way they can show their emotions is through physical resort. People will feel scared to join in the protest even if they wanted to. Due to the high amount of violence being pursued, they just decided to just spectate from far and support from afar. All of this can be avoided just by not resulting in violence. People who feel aligned with the minority group will have a higher chance of wanting to join in the protest and don't have to feel scared, thus resulting in more support from other people. By this, I can conclude that by resulting in violence, not only that it will cost other people's life, it will also lose people's support. Not everyone is that determined to do everything that they can to achieve what they want. Some people just feel similar and aligned to that minority group and wanting to support them. They don't have to result in violence just because they want to support a certain group of people. For example, a young Chinese woman wants to join in the protest of her race due to her feeling a sense of similarity and familiarity, but is scared because the group decided to pursue violent resort instead of peaceful ones. Leads her into thinking that, I should be ready to lose my life just because of a simple protest. How can she support her group then? If she is not ready to put her life on the line, but she still feels the need to support simply because she's a part of the minority group itself. This can be solved just by simply using peaceful resorts. Now, moving on to my second layer, why peaceful protest is better than violence. First, understanding the side of the minority group, their whole purpose was to be seen, heard, or to state their dissatisfactions through protest. We, as the opposition side of the House, definitely acknowledge this, and we never ever want them to stop protesting. Rather than using a method that isn't even good and won't produce results accurately, we recommend doing other peaceful methods that is actually useful. For example, first, boycotts. This is far more useful than violence because it makes the government or whoever involved feel obligated to respond in any kinds of ways. And second example is petitions. This is a very useful way of wanting to be heard and seen. Through petitions, we can get support from other people across countries without them needing to resort into physical contact. Other ways to protest are social media platforms, campaigns, holding out banners and posters. Other than being effective, it is more morally and humanly correct way of protesting. Not only that it is easier for them to gain sympathy and support from an audience, the protest being peaceful makes people feel like the need to support it because it is viewed more positively by the public and the media itself. compared to violence, people will dislike, and if they they probably hate the way of using the method. Because why? Because it is unethical. It is morally incorrect to use the violence method in protest. Other people who are not in the minority group will set a negative label on the group itself, making the group image worse and harder to gain attention and be heard by the public. But we have to know that protesting isn't the problem. We have to understand that their original purpose to protest was to state their voices, which is why peaceful protest is way better than violence. We have to notice that most people who result in violence don't really take their protesting way too seriously, because if they did, they will have morals and the brain to think that there are better ways to gain attention in opposition to resulting to violence. As I've explained before, violence will just result in more violence, creating an endless loop where people are just doing harm and hurting other people. Rather than continuing the loop, all we want is for the loop to stop. But realistically speaking, it will be difficult to make it all end. So just by reducing the violence protest, one by one we will achieve what we want. It's the same as protesting. You won't be able to achieve results immediately. We have to go through a process, especially as a minority group who are struggling to be heard. In conclusion, violence is never the answer to anything. We have to realize that this debate concerns the purpose of protecting itself, which is being heard, seen, or acknowledged. Which is why we, as the opposition side of the House, conclude that resorting to peaceful ways of protesting is much more useful, easier, and better than resorting to violence, which does more harm than good. That's all from me. Thank you.